Scanning for audio.
Welcome to a Tin Dog podcast. This time, something special. Because Mark Wright, author of Who-ology and countless Big Finish, well, he agreed to do a very, very in-depth interview. It's a much longer Tin Dog podcast than usual, and I am enormously grateful for Mark for giving up his time. So, sit back and prepare yourself to enjoy an incredibly great chat. Thanks again to Mark. Here's the interview.
This is K9. You are listening to Tin Dog Podcast. Please do not switch off.
Welcome to what I am sure is, I assure you, Tin Dog Podcast number 650. Now, I know it probably says 675 on the label, but trust me, this was meant to be number 650 because I like to do interviews every so often. And I promised you something for the 650th. So here we are. I'm sitting here doing a live interview, not over Skype. I'm actually in the presence of someone, and this isn't at Hooverville either. This is real. With Mark Wright. Hello, Mark.
Hello.
Hello. Now, I will also tell the listeners to listen out for noises like tea drinking and eating of hobnobs, because that's what we'll be doing, because we're a civilised pair.
And there might also be people walking up and down outside the room, and the floorboards are very creaky.
These are the most atmospheric floorboards since Knock Knock.
They're it makes for an interesting journey from my office to the kitchen and back again.
Yeah, no one's going to sneak up on you.
No.
So, hello. I'm here to talk to you about you and your work on Doctor Who. Is that all right with you?
That's absolutely fine.
Marvellous. So, can you tell us a little bit about your history with Doctor Who?
Work history or going right back
tell
to...
you what, let's make out you're a human being and have your proper history with Doctor Who. When did you first encounter the man in the blue box?
Would have been 1974, if not 70... No, it would have been 74. My very first memory of watching Doctor Who is Death to the Daleks.
Nice.
And it's a very, very vague, because I always say that you have different stages of Doctor Who memories. You've got your that vague just photograph of an image, and I remember the Daleks looking, there's the Dalek POV in Death to the Daleks,
yes,
as they're going through that kind of rocky area, and I think I've got a vague memory of Belial as well. But that being said, I must have been present for watching The Time Warrior, because when Sontaran Experiment went out, both me and my brother pointed at Steyr and said, "Oh, it's a lynx." We didn't know they were called Sontarans. So I must have been, I mean, I was born November 71, so I would have been very, very little. And then you go through and I have memories of Planet of the Spiders.
Yeah.
The spiders all on their little pedestals. And then after that, it's Robot. Pure, I kind of very specifically remember my mum sitting me down in front of Robot. Yeah. And that was it. And that's when I have my first moving image memories of Doctor Who, not that photograph snapshot. So I very specifically remember the Doctor throwing the ball bearings under the Robot's feet, which I thought they were Maltesers. I thought it was chocolate. And also...
Make a hell of a different story.
Yes. And the Doctor and Harry driving past the foot of the robot and throwing the virus over it. So those are my first very early childhood memories of watching Doctor Who, really.
You see, I'm not that far behind you.
Right.
We are being attacked by a moth. I am not that far behind you. I'm March 1972.
Right.
But my memories, my distinct memories are of Leela. And then going into the Romanas.
Yes.
But I remember, I think I've got some flashes of Planet of Evil
Right.
in there, but it's Creature from the Pit from then on. It's like fixed for me.
Okay.
And they are like locked in memories. Yes, I know I betrayed the Brotherhood by watching Buck Rogers sometimes.
Oh, I fully admit to that in one of my editorials for the Complete History.
Yeah, Buck Rogers was shining.
Though, we were watching, and also it was, my brother was into it, and so I kind of missed a lot of season 18.
Yeah.
Or the 1980/1 series, as we call it in the Complete History, because we're trying to be not call them seasons.
Series, Scott. It's a nightmare with podcasting because everyone, or the Americans and the Canadians are like, seasons, series, whatever.
I feel for Doctor Who, for the Complete History, because it's kind of covering kind of the 63 to 89 and 2005 onwards. There's no standardisation anymore. There's no seasons. So we just went for the series by year. So it's the 1963/4 series.
God bless UK Gold, because it actually says series 41.
Yes. So those are my very early memories of watching Doctor Who, and Sarah was amazing, and I loved the Doctor, Harry and Sarah together. They're kind of still one of my favourite kind of TARDIS crews, really, TARDIS teams. And then kind of never really went away from me, apart from that brief period when Buck Rogers was on, and other members of the family wanted to watch it. And but looking back on that period now, you just think, well, this stuff's still brilliant. So
and Buck Rogers.
Viewing tastes were changing, and the show had a massive change in tone as well. So, but no, all the way through. I mean, I've got very fond memories of Genesis of the Daleks, Revenge of the Cybermen. Talons of Weng Chiang really stands out.
You'll have been a spot on age for the Five Faces of the Doctor as well.
Well, Five Faces of Doctor Who that's probably my kind of big fan moment.
Yeah.
That's the period during that when I realised I was a Doctor Who fan. Card carrying.
Yeah, it was 5 weeks of just joy.
Yeah, and the Three Doctors I thought was amazing. Not often you hear that phrase, the Three Doctors was amazing, but it is a fantastic Doctor Who story.
No, but you were the spot on age.
Yeah.
That for you were the age group that you should have been when you were watching it when it was first broadcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was the first time I saw Casey Manning on screen.
Yeah. And you can really get away with the gel guards at that point.
I love the gel guards. You look at the figurine that the figurine collection brought out, and it's a brilliant figure. It's brilliant. They look a bit like just blokes carrying them on their shoulders when they're in the episode. But no, so the Three Doctors stands out in my mind from that season, and I mean I know why they showed Legopolis, because it was the lead into season 19. But I kind of maybe wish they'd shown an earlier one, but it was necessary to show that, because you couldn't call it the Five Faces of Doctor Who if you didn't show Legopolis, because you wouldn't have had Peter Davison popping up to be the fifth face.
Well, far be it from the BBC at that time to promote something and get it slightly wrong.
And directly because of the Five Faces of Doctor Who, it led to more repeats over the next couple of years.
Yes.
I wouldn't have seen Curse of Peladon or which you got in that Doctor Who and the Monsters season the following year. An Earthshock again, with the disappearing cyber lieutenant.
You see, because of the way that I'd hit Doctor Who fandom for myself, it was like John Pertwee was Wurzel Gummidge first. And then I realised he'd been the Doctor because of my...
I have vague memories of Pertwee in Whodunit as well, because that would have been going out, because he was still doing Whodunit after he finished Doctor Who.
Yes.
So 76.
Didn't he have a ridiculous tan in that constantly?
Well, probably because he's probably been coming back from Ibiza, because they had or whichever island they had the family home on. Yeah. So he was probably. But no, I mean all of Whodunit's on it's on YouTube. It's very, very interesting. But I have very strong memories of watching John Pertwee who'd done it and knowing he was a Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And then slowly you kind of get to kind of realise there were other Doctor Who's, and then you find this whole world, really.
Yeah.
So
important question. Have you got a memory of finding out that there were missing stories?
No.
Have you you've just always known it?
I don't know. I don't have one overriding memory of realising, oh my god, all these episodes are missing.
Yeah, just...
I think it was probably that. I think there's a Doctor Who monthly summer special that lists them all.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the point where.
And the wonderful thing about that now is that from that first list, I think that's the first time it was really kind of not so much acknowledged, but talked about in kind of the wider fan magazines, and realising that. But the wonderful thing now, I suppose, is that list is kind of it's a bit smaller.
It's being nibbled at.
Yeah.
My personal thing at the moment is I would like them to animate some of the missing ones, but I'd like them to use the Lego animated figures from the Dimension Giz game, because obviously the maths already exists, so they've got the characters already in there.
Yeah.
So you could quite easily, well, you couldn't easily do it. I mean, my degree's in animation, so I know how hard it would be. But I just think if it's not going to look exactly like it did, why not do it so it's fun?
Yes, it can't be fun. It must be proper. It must be accurate.
It must be as close as possible.
I think
snaps.
I think it was animated. I think Power of the Daleks, stunning achievement.
Even considering how long they had, I can't believe they got it done in so.
It's great to see people like Martin Geraghty and Adrian Salmon and the others who worked on that doing this fabulous work to bring these back. And as time goes on, maybe as these things get switcher and cheaper as it kind of gets through, that eventually we may get everything. I mean, it may take decades to do, but
time.
I hope eventually that everything will exist in a visual form, whether animation or watching Rogue One and what they did with Peter Cushing in that.
I know, that was incredible. I only saw it. I literally only saw it last week for the very first time. I didn't see it at the cinema.
I didn't have a problem with it, actually.
No, I didn't.
The layer bit could do without. That was quite badly done.
Well, I was thrown by Leia, and I was thinking, her eyes, what's going on with her eyes?
That wasn't.
And then I saw, for the first time ever with my daughter, we watched proper Star Wars.
Right.
This was it. She's 8. Let's do it. Let's do Star Wars. And we watched New Hope, or Episode 4, or Star Wars as it was known when I was a kid.
It's always Star Wars.
It's always Star Wars. Watched that, and then I realised they'd got the eyes right in Rogue One. She spends the whole of Star Wars just goggle-eyed.
There was no need for the layer bit. That was where it just was one step too far. I didn't have a problem with the Tarkin bit because I thought it was really well done. I think it earns its place narratively.
Yeah.
And also Peter Cushing's got such an iconic kind of image that I think it works. And also Guy Henry's a superb actor, and I think there's a performance driving that. I mean, you could argue that they could have just had Guy Henry there playing Tarkin without any of the CGI and some prosthetics or whatever, because he gets I think he gets the essence of it, and I don't think he gets enough credit for it.
Well, there's a Tarkin in episode 2 or 3 when and he was going, I've got these plans.
It's episode 3, I think.
Episode 3, and he's just
which I don't.
No,
I'm not going to say that because you always upset somebody when you say, well, they're a bit.
It's all right. I'll put my hand up. I went to the midnight showing of episode 3 and fell asleep during the lightsaber fight at the end. That was the point where I officially realised.
I think we should now break the hobnobs out and then get down back to Doctor Who.
Oh yeah, Big Finish podcast got nothing on us but their crisps. We've got hobnobs.
And they're chocolate ones at that.
Yes, we're not going to not have chocolate hobnobs.
So
yes, right. So you're a fan, and that's nice. Lots of people are fans, and they either grow up, move away, or like us, we just kind of hang around and still be fans. But there's a group of people, and I'm not going to hold myself up. I would like to be one of them who do the jump from fan to semi-professional and then professional. How do you do that walk?
I think I'm still doing it. I started writing my own Doctor Who stories when I was probably 11 or 12. The Davison era, the Fifth Doctor era, is still my favourite era of Doctor Who, and that's when I started writing my own Doctor Who fiction in a battered old exercise book. The first Doctor Who story I ever wrote was called The Last Dalek. It was awful. For some reason, Davros was being kept in cryogenic suspension in a cellar off a London street where the TARDIS landed nearby, but there was also a lone Dalek who'd been programmed that if Davros was ever taken prisoner, he would be. So this was obviously before Resurrection. And it was awful. I mean, I wish I still had it somewhere. So I started writing my own Doctor Who stories, and that kind of went on writing stuff. And I got a typewriter one Christmas. beautiful blue. Can't remember the make. Had the blue carry case. And I carried on there. I created my own Doctor, who would have been played by David Dixon for the TV Ford Prefect.
Okay, I can see that.
He wore a dinner suit and a silk scarf.
That's decent casting.
Yeah, I wrote an Ice Warrior story with him and his new companion. Unit were in it. Yeah, the kind of things that you try the kind of thing you can try when nobody's buying them, when nobody has to read them, where you can just mess around with, all the stuff you want to mess around. And then I kind of wrote a Fifth Doctor Teague and Turlough story with the Wirren called The Right to Survive, which is the one. And I said there was a fanzine called Star Begotten in the late 80s, done by two guys, Nick Cooper and Tim Monroe, and they were based kind of Leeds, Huddersfield, and I kind of seen them popping up in kind of Dwas newsletters, I think it was, and so when I sent them this story, and that kind of that was my route into fandom, really, because they said, oh yeah, we'd really like to publish this. It wasn't very good. But they said we'd like to publish it. But I think also the fact that there was a fellow fan nearby in Halifax. Yeah. And they sent me a letter back. It was possibly the most exciting. I still remember it. I was still at school, still at Crossley Heath, and I got this letter saying they wanted to, they were going to do the story in the fanzine. But also, was I perhaps interested in what Doctor Who stories they may have on video? And there was this sheaf of A4 typed paper with their list, doctor by doctor, of what they had. And that was my first kind of, oh my God, this stuff is out there. This is before, before Doctor Who stories were coming out on home video at a tenner a time. I think Revenge of the Cybermen had come out. But it was still like 80 odd quid because it was for the rental market. And I was more excited about, oh my God, they've got Earthshock. I wasn't looking at the Harnell, Trout and Pertwee stuff. It was like, my God, they've got Earthshock. It was so exciting, but I remember just keep looking in my bag and pulling this thing out in geography or something and just looking and going, oh my God. And so I started going over to Leeds and hanging out with Nick and Tim, and there was a local group in Leeds. That's where I met Paul Kirkley, who's kind of does Space Helmet for a Cow. And so that was my route into fandom, and started doing a fanzine with Tim and Simon Colnett called Brave New World, which we did 2 issues of. I mean, fanzines in those days were hard work. Yeah. I mean, they still are, but the technology is there to make them a little bit slicker. But, we were doing them, it was A5 photocopied.
Yeah, stapled in the middle. Electroset.
Yeah. And I had an Amstrad word processor.
Which one?
The PCW 8512.
Oh, I had the 9512 eventually.
Was mine the 9512? Is that the double disc drive?
Did it have a Daisy printer?
No.
That was the 8th then.
Oh no, it must have done,
because there was a dot matrix and a daisy wheel available.
It was the dot matrix printer, so it was the 8512 with the double disc drive, with its own size
3-inch discs, yes,
which were so sturdy.
Yeah, they were practically solids. They looked a lot like the computer chips that they had in Star Trek, because that they would shove into their computers because they were just really solid things.
And I had a very rudimentary desktop publishing package.
Yeah.
But, we'd spend, you'd print out the pages and we'd do paste up. Mm-hmm. And that's where I learned how to not only write, but edit as well. Yeah. And, and proof and edit. And there's a group of us from that period, really, who are still around working in the magazines and the books and everything today, who kind of self-taught ourselves. I mean, very few of us have, any kind of journalistic qualifications or anything. We taught ourselves how to write and edit and to become journalists and writers. Mm-hmm. So it was a great period. This would have been late 80s into the 90s, and that's I found myself into organised fandom, I suppose it was, and did my first convention in 89.
What was that? One of the Panopticons, was it? No,
it was Honeycomb in Swindon.
Oh, that's all news to me there.
An amazing convention. I mean, I kind of went, and it was Sylvester. Sophie Aldred was supposed to be there on the Sunday, and then they announced that she couldn't make it. But they announced that, but she sent somebody in her place, and Sylvester McCoy came on stage. This was a few weeks before season 26, the 1989 series. And Nick Courtney was there, Michael Wisher, Terry Walsh. I remember being there. Yeah, and that was my first. Although my first exposure really to kind of meeting somebody from Doctor Who was William Russell.
Yeah.
Amazing experience. I was a member of a youth theatre group called the Actors Workshop, which is still going. Until recently I had my office there. And because originally I wanted to be an actor, not a writer. But we'd done a production of Romeo and Juliet just before the summer holidays. And over the summer holidays we were going to have a 2-day Shakespeare workshop. I think the English Shakespeare Company was sending a couple of actors up to do workshops with us for 2 days, and lo and behold, walking through the door was William Russell Enoch. And I go, Russell Enoch, I know that. And then I just looked at him and went, oh my God, it's Ian Chesterton. So I spent 2 days being taught how to act by William Russell. I had never been to a convention.
That's not the sort of thing you could pay for these days. You
No.
Get that.
And actually, give me 1 minute,
Yeah.
and I will go and get something.
There now follows the sound of me eating biscuits. Biscuits. Not cookies. None of this nonsense. No, actual biscuits.
Sure, you can edit that bit out.
I can't, but I was deciding.
I just live next door to my office.
Oh, I love those two books.
But yes, I have here. To Mark, who came to a Thursday workshop on Shakespeare with me in Halifax, good luck, William Russell, July 1988. This is in my copy of
Celebration.
Doctor Who: A Celebration, which is a bit kind of water damaged and dog-eared, and then.
Which is only right, that's what it should look like.
And then I have a letter here as well from William Russell dated 9th of June 89 from the Royal Shakespeare Theatre, Stratford-upon-Avon. Dear Mark, thank you so much for your long and interesting letter, and forgive my delay in replying. I have been busy with the plays that we are doing. He was doing Hamlet at the time. He was playing first player, I think, Player King and Ghost of Hamlet's Father when he did a touring production, so went to the Alhambra Theatre in Bradford to interview him with Nick and Tim for Star Begone. So those are all kind of very formative memories, and that was a kind of big thing. And he signed my copy of An Unearthly Child as well, I think. But that was incredible. And then my copy of Hayning's Key to Time. I mean, these were seminal books, but I started taking these around to conventions. Yeah, I mean, who have we got there? We've got
Colin,
Sophie, Colin. That's John Pertwee.
Yes, I've got that one.
John Woodnut, J&T, Judith Hibbert.
Oh yes,
Madame Delilah, who I'm not sure if this is well known. Judith Hibbert, who played Madame Delilah in Doctor Who: The Ultimate Adventure, is the mother of. I cannot remember the actress's name. She plays Demelza in the current incarnation of Poldark. Yes.
Right. Yes.
Yes. We've got David Banks, Ian Briggs, Nicola, Bryant Lalla, Christopher Barry, Ian Stewart Black. Got some. I've got John Woodnut twice. Nick Courtney.
I've got Terry Malloy's twice in mine. So.
Nick Courtney, Peter Davison, who I met at Granada Studios when he came to do a convention. Jackie Lane.
Now that is rare. How'd you get Jackie Lane?
She was at an Opticon, I think, and this was in the steward's room. Town Marquez, Kev McCulloch, Dominic May, Prentice Hancock. Yeah, so there's so I kind of took these around. So I just found because these are on the shelf in the office I've just moved into. Yeah, so very formative experiences, and started going to conventions and meeting people. I think the following year I met Paul Cornell at Carousel, and that's when the Virgin books were just starting up. Yeah. And Paul was saying that he thought he was probably going to be doing one of the first ones, and that there was this kind of route in. But no, I never went through that route down.
Did you ever get the Virgin Writers Guide? The bit that said, never mention this, but in the future the human race discover time travel and travel back in time and become the Gallifreyans. Only the Doctor knows this, but don't mention it.
Yeah,
I love that in the Wright.
So that was all happening. You know, Doctor Who went off air, and that's and the organised fandom kind of geared up, and so there was a group of us around. I met people like Gary Russell, who became a great mate, and so throughout the 90s, I had a job in insurance, and then I went back to back to do my A levels and went on to university in Salford in the 90s. So I was at Salford when the McGann movie went out.
Yeah, and
then. Ended up staying in Manchester after university. I trained as an actor with a bit of writing and directing in the middle of it all. And then, late 90s, I worked at Granada Tours.
Yes.
For a while, Coronation Street guiding.
You may have been my tour guide.
I remember passing out, the staff bar, the Granada staff bar there, was the old school, which was a building across the road from the main Granada building. I remember coming out of there one night and just getting out onto the street and realising that was Gareth Roberts sitting in there, because I know Gareth a little bit, and so we kind of had this. And next time I saw Gareth, he said, "Were you in the old school at Granada?" I was like, "Yeah, I was." So these, all these things happening on the periphery, and then 99, after I'd finished at Granada, I worked in a call centre for a while, and then I ended up moving to Bath in spring 1999.
Yes,
because I knew Steve O'Brien, one of the co-writers of Who Graphica.
Yes.
I knew Steve, and he was in Bath, and Future Publishing was based out of there. And he said, and Steve had been doing a bit of freelancing. I think he'd worked on Cult TV, which had been cancelled. And he just said to me, you need to get yourself down here. Mm-hmm. And then this is probably the big pivotal moment. Steve knew a guy called Cavan Scott, who was working on a magazine called T3.
Yeah, which is technology.
Yeah, T3's still going, I think. It's basically boys' toys, you know. Tomorrow's technology today, I think, was the tagline. And Steve said, Cav's a big Doctor Who fan. He's always wanted to write a Doctor Who novel but never got round to it, and you're the same. And I thought, you two should hook up. So we'd kind of made email contact before then. I think some of the first emails I ever sent were to Cav. And I moved to Bath. I kind of packed up in Manchester and basically worked in bars around Bath. Yeah. I worked in a particular bar where all the editors from Future were drinking. And I got some work experience. I got work experience on Diesel Car magazine. Right. Which is really bizarre.
Big background in Diesel?
No, but it was a magazine that needed some freebie help. I mean, that's
Right.
Sadly, it's become more of the way into the industry now. Yes. And you're almost expected, you couldn't just do 2 days a week, you're expected now to kind of put in full-time hours.
Which unfortunately means that the only people who can afford to do that are the people who are already backed by their parents or anything like that. Thus the meritocracy is coming to an end because the talent isn't rising because it can't. Yeah. But
in those days, you kind of had, this is 99, you had some of these big magazine companies who, you could go in a couple of days a week. I was writing news stories about diesel pollution, but then going out on photo shoots. Yeah. Driving cars on big busy roads with a photographer hanging out of the window of a car in front of you.
Right.
Just to take pictures of you driving this diesel 4x4.
Right, so,
and going up on Salisbury Plain. Bit of off-roading, but we'd strayed too close to an army training village that they have up on Salisbury Plain. So we got buzzed by a helicopter. A helicopter came by and sent a van of squaddies down to see what we're doing, because we had walkie-talkies as well.
So it's a written version of Top Gear by accident.
But we had walkie-talkies so the photographer could say to me, right, just turn that way. Can you come that way? Yeah. And so they were obviously picking up on them and thought we were spies or something. So in the background of this, I'm starting to hang around with Cav, and first night me and Cav met, went for a drink, and we had a pitch for a novel for the BBC, kind of ready to, which was a...
So this is when Virgin Books ended, BBC took over...
The BBC were doing
pitches for them,
Yeah. And I was sharing a flat with Paul Cornell in Bath. Paul was my landlord for a year. Great times. I mean, Paul's a great guy. And he was really encouraging, and so I owe Paul a lot for kind of putting me and Cav in the right direction, really. And we put a pitch into Justin at BBC Books. It didn't get through, but we got a very positive rejection,
which is always a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of timing. It was a Pompeii set story, and Big Finish were just about to do Fires of Pompeii.
Yes.
which is brilliant. And so Big Finish was starting to happen in the background as well. So this would have been 99, this would have been into 2000 now. So we got that favourable reaction, but then Big Finish started up with the Beneath stuff, Beneath Summerfield, and they were going to do a relaunch the Beneath Summerfield range with a short story collection that Paul was editing.
Yes.
The Deadman Diaries, and me and Cav pitched for it. We took Paul out for lunch basically and pitched, and he said, yeah, okay. So that was... So the Deadman Diaries, Christmas Spirit, marked mine and Cav's first professionally published fiction as a partnership, really.
So how does that work? I mean, obviously, you've got two mates and you both are enthusiastic, but say you've got an idea for a story. How do you one person's going to have more of an idea than the other person. The other person's going, yes, no, I agree, or how about this, or does one of you take the lead? Or
it depends. Well, I think we fell into a way of working very quickly where we would just knock ideas around. You work the synopsis up together, and then should you get commissioned, you then split the synopsis up into the bits you'd quite like to write. So we never wrote sequentially, or very rarely wrote together in the same room. I mean, in fact, when we were commissioned to do Christmas Spirit, I'd already moved to London, so me and Cav have never lived in the same town when we've written.
Okay, works.
Because we were both living in Bath. I think Cav was living over in Bristol, but we were very close. But we got commissioned for Deadman Diaries, and I moved to London with the magazine I was on, What DVD. As I eventually got hired for T3 as the editorial assistant, and then became reviews editor on What DVD, which was then moved up to London. And I kind of had to go with it, really, because I thought I can't. Yeah, I mean, I could have stayed in Bath, and there's an alternative universe out there where I stayed in Bath. So we fell into a way of working very quickly and knocking ideas around. We would have a writing night when I lived in Bath. I'd go over to Cavs on a Thursday, and we'd knock ideas around, and so it went from there. And then Big Finish came along,
right?
And I'd known Gary Russell a little bit.
So this is when Gary's still primo.
This was very early on, right? Very, very early on, because I kind of got back in touch with Gary. I met Gary in the very early 90s, and I got back in touch when I was in Bath. Me and Paul had a flat warming party,
right?
And Gary came along and we were chatting, and I pitched the idea of, as an SFX feature, of why don't we do a feature on Big Finish, but as part of it I'll do a walk-on in the story, so I'm in the fearmonger.
Right, yes.
I remember we put it to Dave Golder, the editor of SFX, and he said, yeah, okay. So I went up to the recording of the Fearmonger. I was there all weekend. Just laughing at the thought of it now, and I was so green, I was so inexperienced, and I trained as an actor, and that was fine. And I was in there. The first scene recorded was me assassinating Jacqueline Pearce.
Yeah, but when you were being trained as an actor, was there, I'm just going to say this, and I'll probably get the language wrong, but was there a module on audio acting?
Yeah, we did a bit of radio acting.
You did?
Yeah, a bit of radio acting. Yeah, actually, we did. I remember specific sessions on radio acting. Yeah, Salford University was very kind of progressive, because it was in Manchester near Granada, so it was very much about screen acting and radio acting and stage as well.
And it had a bit of a history with some serious performers coming out of it as well.
Oh, Eccleston, Sarah Lancashire, lots of people coming out of Salford. So that was interesting, and I kind of, you're there up in London, you've come up from Bath, I'm so green, and you're there trying acting that you're assassinating Jacqueline Pearce and then getting attacked by a static monster. And I was interviewing everybody as well. Yeah. I hadn't prepped.
No.
So, Big Finish in those days, it was very, Fearmonger's number 3?
Yeah, it's really early on.
Yeah, it's a great story. And so I'm interviewing Jacqueline Pearce, who I love Jax. She's I've done some Blake Seven stuff, but
she is a force of nature.
She's amazing.
That biography CD that was released. I couldn't recommend it enough, but you'd have to put the warning on, because some of the stories are not family.
But we were kind of standing outside the Big Finish recording in a multi-storey car park at the time, which was, I think, above an Undertaker's. They were on the level below in this recording studio. Very, very early days, and we went outside, blazing sunshine all weekend. I went out and clicked on my dictaphone.
Yeah.
I didn't even thought that you needed to prep questions. So I said to Jacqueline, are you happy to be involved in the continuation of Doctor Who on audio CD? Well, of course I am, my darling.
That's
Click. Jacqueline, thank you very much.
right.
One of my very first experiences of interviewing somebody. What a disaster. But it got better from there. I kind of started on my feet. So, I mean, Sophie was just lovely. And Sylvester turned up later on the Saturday. He'd had a very hair-raising journey down from Scotland, I think, where he'd been on a film shoot. And it was lovely. And I talked to Gary and Jason Haig-Ellery, who I knew Jason a little bit from some fan events. So, it was just lovely to be suddenly just dip a toe into that world. And so it all kind of just pushes you on to the next bit. But the Sunday, Sylvester was leaving at lunchtime on the Sunday, on the second day of recording, and I hadn't interviewed him. And he was having to go to Teddington Studios, and he was having a car sent for him. And Sylvester said, well, why don't you come in the car with me and interview me on the way?
Yeah.
Brilliant. I didn't live in London. I didn't know where Teddington Studios was. So I got my bag and everything, said bye to Gary, thank you very much, everybody. And off we went to Teddington Studios. And I was interviewing Sylvester in the back of the car. It was lovely. Sylvester's ace. And we go from Fulham to Teddington Lock Studios.
Yeah.
And we get out and Sylvester shakes my hand, it was very nice to meet you. And he kind of, trips off into the studio,
You've got
raising
some
his
nice
hat.
gold on your dictaphone.
Yeah. And I turn around thinking I'm going to get back in the car, and the car's driving away down the road, and I'm standing there.
Right.
Where am I? So I was abandoned in Teddington by Sylvester McCoy.
Fair enough.
And I hope
you get to be your companion.
Yeah.
And to be abandoned.
I hope the taxi driver was kind of, I had that Doctor Who in the back of my car the other day. So but that was, again, sticks in my mind, my very first experience of Big Finish.
But you were good enough to go, right, the important bit is the interview. Everything else can...
Yeah.
Everything
And
else
I found my
ride.
way back into London, and it was fine. But that was kind of my first kind of experience of any involvement with Big Finish.
Yeah.
And then me and Cav started haranguing Gary for a commission. And we wanted to do vampires. Cav had a brilliant idea because he used to go to the
Project series.
I mean, Project Twilight happened very, very early on. And Cav had a great idea because he used to go to this the electronic show in Vegas every January as part of his job on T3. And he kind of saw Vegas was night, 24 hours in those buildings. Perfect environment for a vampire. So eventually we pitched it. We got an email from Gary, a blind email which had gone to various people saying you've all expressed an interest in writing a vampire story for us.
Yeah.
And so over the next few weeks, flesh out your ideas and send them in. And we didn't know who else was going for it, so we sent this idea for Project. Was it Project Twilight at the time, or was it the Twilight Plague? I think it was originally called the Twilight Plague.
Yeah.
Which Gary didn't like for some reason. And this time I'd moved to London. I was living in Lewisham, not far from Gary's, and we become good friends, and we kind of went round. Was round for a cup of tea one afternoon.
Do you have, this is good, as a sideline, Gary's house, was there ever a party there, and did you take photographs? Because apparently, I heard an interview with Gary, he used to put post-it notes for an idea for this incredible novel on his wall. And then he went away, and his person who lived in the house, stripped them all off and painted and decorated. So they're missing. So I've always thought someone must have taken a photograph of this wall, and you could zoom in, and you would finally have this mystical novel he'd been thinking about for years.
I've never heard that story.
Anyway, so you know.
Yeah, well, we put in this pitch and we kind of said, have you got it? And he said, no, we're not going to go with it. And then a month or so later, I was around at his for a cup of tea, and he suddenly announced, I think we should do your vampire story. Right, brilliant. But can you relocate it from Vegas to Bermondsey? I think there's a thing about that.
It's always nice there.
There'd been some unsuccessful attempts at doing American accents in a few Big Finishes, and I think Gary
still an issue.
So it's a kind of perfectly. And I think the scene he said that convinced him to commission us was a scene where in the casino at the dusk that there's a cat. It's a vampire cat, and it's licking a saucer of blood.
Nice.
The scene doesn't end up in the story.
I was going to say I cannot remember.
Yeah,
but
yeah. And so brilliant. Off we went, and so that was the start of our association with Big Finish. That is still going to this day.
It certainly is. And you got to play with the Lynxes recently. with the Sontarans.
We
with
did.
Uncle Tom.
Yes, we did, which was great. I mean, as things stand, that's mine and Cav's last kind of joint piece of work. But no, we've never quite left Big Finish either as a duo or separately.
The main villain in the Project series, is it Nimrod?
Nimrod.
Glorious creation.
Great. Originally, Nimrod was supposed to be in the original pitch. It was Askran from the audiovisuals range that was kind of the precursor to Big Finish, and played by John Ainsworth.
Right.
In the audiovisuals, and he was going to be this kind of Time Lord sponsored vampire hunter who got bounced around from time zone to time zone. Still had the kind of the wrist mounted crossbow that fired stakes, and like after I did tell John that, and he was just like, why didn't Gary go with that? I think he was quite perturbed. But Stephen Chance playing Nimrod, absolutely incredible, because you kind of on the first morning in studio, this very softly spoken chap said, "Oh, hello, I'm Stephen. I'm playing Nimrod," and I was thinking, with a voice like that, like hell you are. Yeah. And then he steps into the studio and
switches it on.
Yeah, I mean, we've always said it's like he was gargling broken glass. Yeah. Because he just turned it on, and we were all what. Mm-hmm. But also some other brilliant actors.
But I would like Nimrod to meet the countermeasures people. I just think new countermeasures. And because Nimrod in the 70s, not quite as developed.
I always see Nimrod in the 70s as with big sideburns.
Yeah.
Hell
of a Department S episode.
One of our episodes of Countermeasures does mention Department C4, which is the Forge. But yeah, Nimrod, in Project Lazarus, he's a bit of a one-note Bond villain, really, because he's just killing people. He's killing his staff indiscriminately.
There is a reason Bond villains are so popular.
Yeah,
there is. So,
but he had his motivations had all gone out of the window. I think he was kind of almost a background assassin figure in Project Twilight, but then Lazarus, he's kind of front and centre. Yeah. And again with Project Lazarus, we had no idea the effect it was going to have on the range going forward from there.
It's a very nice story, Lazarus.
And you look at it, just a couple of lines of. And it was Gary who then said, I think we should, Hex, who's going to be the new companion, I think he should be Cassie's son.
Yeah, just as a nice...
Yeah, and it's one line in, what's the brilliant Dan Abnett Cyberman story?
Oh, the one where they're converting themselves back into humans?
Yeah, what's it called?
I've got the picture, I've got the cover in my head.
Yeah, I know.
It's blue and it...
Yeah. Anyway,
I'll let it one in. I'll let it answer in later. Yeah.
It's in that one, and it's just a line. The doctor's going through he's hacked into the computer, and he's going through personnel records, and he comes up with Hex's personnel record, and he goes, da. Mother. Oh, that is interesting, and it's just that one line, and that sets the whole thing off, going through to Project Destiny and beyond. Yeah, I mean, because we had quite a long break after Project Lazarus. We did 3. Yeah. So we did. I mean, Church and the Crown, still one of my favourites.
Was that the first purely historical from Big Finish?
No, Marian Conspiracy.
Oh, of course, yes.
Brilliant, Jack.
My first experience of Big Finish, I got it on tape for free when I went to SFX Magazine's first convention, and they were giving them away. And,
brilliant script from Jack. Brilliant script. I mean, Jack's brilliant anyway. Yeah. And so Church and the Crown, Davison, and because we were originally going to do the story that Joe Lidser eventually did as Master. We pitched the Master story, and we were going to do that. But then I said to Gary, you should do Doctor Who and the Three Musketeers. And he went like, ooh. And then he came round that night and said, if you want to do Doctor Who and the Musketeers, you've got to give the Master story up.
That's fair enough.
And Cav, it was kind of he was the driving force behind the Master version, really. But we kind of thought, well, Peter Davison, Musketeers.
What's not to laugh?
Yeah, a bit of a laugh. That's one that still stands out for me as a high point. I remember on the day recording for the second day of recording.
So was RMM already existing at that point, or were you?
Yes, she was. Because I'm in Eye of the Scorpion.
Right.
I'm the assassin that says death to RMM at the end of part 1. I also play a eunuch at one point on audio.
It's the best
a
place.
mute eunuch on audio, because I'd had this thing since doing the Fearmonger. I kind of had this thing with Gary where I just said, "Oh yeah, can I just pop in and say a line?" There was always a joke that Caroline Morris would always say, "Yeah, was Mark Wright popping in for lunch?" Because I lived not far when they ended up at the Moat in Brixton in Stockwell. I lived not far from there, and I'd just do the odd, one-line walk-on for Gary. And so I was there in the studio for Eye of the Scorpion. I'm in The One Doctor. I'm the slightly camp guard. He throws Mel and the Doctor into a cell. Mel's just going, "This is a travesty of justice. Aren't you going to give us anything to eat?" "Well, yeah, there's a food machine next to the comfy sofa." The One Doctor was great.
The One Doctor is brilliant.
Well, a great experience. I mean, it's not every day you're in a studio and you walk into lunch and in front of you is Colin Baker, Matt Lucas, Biggins, Adam Buxton, Claire Buckfield. They were kind of very exciting, very special days. And then that's when Big Finish eventually arrived at working at the Moat, where they still work, but it's in a different location now. One Doctor, the one that really sticks out is Sympathy for the Devil from the Unbound range.
Yes.
I'm one of the drunks in the Briggs bar, and I'm the unit trooper that Sam Kisgart hypnotises when he comes out. As days go, you're in a studio with David Warner, Nicholas Courtney, Mark Gatiss, and David Tennant.
You're going to have to go a long way to get a better lineup than that.
Yeah, that's very special. David Warner's incredible. They all are. Nick was incredible as well, but David Warner, and I kind of worked with David and.
That story is a thing of beauty, though. When you're experiencing it, the lines David Warner does about the people of Hong Kong crying in the bay, they still stick with you after all this time.
He does a beautiful sequence in Sympathy for the Devil. Jonathan Clements, great writer, where he's going through the different iterations of Who. Yeah. They call me Who the, and he's just the subtlety in the way he's saying Who and Who and. Brilliant. I adore David, because brilliant David then later is in the Blake 7 CDs that we've done.
Yeah, is Villa's dad?
Yeah.
That's just a bit of a killer. Do you want to play Villa's dad?
Spoilers there, but it's alright. It's been out for a while.
I was thinking 8 years in we're allowed to see
I think 8 years. God, is it that long?
It feels...
No, it's not quite, but maybe it's probably 3-4 years. 4 years, it's probably 4 or 5 years now. But Solving Tavak, I love that cliffhanger. Kind of, hello Villa, hello Dad.
No, as always, if any spoilers get mentioned that you don't want to go any further, just say...
No, that's fine. It's great. We were just having such a giggle with that. And it's pretty cool, it's David Warner and he's playing, Villa's dad.
I'd heard that early on, the stuff written for Michael Keating was written... And more stuff had to be written because he was saying his lines so quickly, because he was saying them as Villa.
Oh, I can't... Yeah, possibly early on. I don't remember any of that from our stuff.
No, it might have been B7 Media.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think he...
But then we had... Because we did, for the Blake 7 range, the Armageddon Storm.
Yes.
Because we'd done the first Big Finish Blake 7 novel. And then David Richardson said, time for you to do an audio, boys. And we kind of... talked about doing the Blake 7 Mafia from Shadow, the Terra Nostra.
Yes.
But I think there was a rights thing there, which meant we couldn't do it. And David said, it should be a trilogy if we're doing the Terra Nostra. And then we thought, we can't do it because there's a rights thing. And then we just went, we got excited over the word trilogy, and David said, all right, then pitch me a trilogy, which then became the Armageddon Storm.
Yeah.
And part of it was Tom Chapman wants to come back as Del Grant. So we had Tom in there. And that was, again, another great day where we were in studio with Tom Chadbourne and Paul Darrow. We were out the door by about 1:30, I think, because they were just two old pros.
They just nailed it.
Just nailed it. They were great together in that first part. And David at the time, I think there was a possibility that we weren't going to get Stephen Pacey for the Liberator Chronicles, which thankfully happened, and he's brilliant. But David was very much, we need another male character to kind of another voice for these.
Yeah.
What do you reckon? And he kind of, something David said, never ever do this, but it was just one of the things. And he had us writing an extra scene for the end, which I think we were a little bit too subtle with that one, because people didn't seem to get that Del Grant was joining the Liberator crew. Because I think the dialogue, it's just we were trying not to be on the nose of it, and maybe we should have been just going, "Do you want to join the Liberator crew?" Yes, all right. I think
to be fair, I've been rewatching a lot of Blake Seven lately, and a lot of the writing is fairly on the nose.
Yeah, so we kind of did that, and there's a particular fan on the Horizon forum.
Yeah.
Forgive me, I can't remember your name, but she is the biggest Del Grant fan in the world. Yes. Lovely couple who come over to the convention sometimes, and she had like a Tom Chadman T-shirt and that. And I'm not quite sure she got that we were bringing, after listening to the end of the Armageddon Storm, that Del Grant was going to be a crew regular. So all these different ranges. But no, after Lazarus we had quite a long break before our next one, because there were changes happening at Big Finish, and obviously people want to do their own thing, quite rightly. But then during this period we got our brief near brush with producing the Tomorrow People.
Oh yes.
Still gutted about that we were going to take over. Nigel Fairs was finishing. We'd written, both me and Cavan written separately, the Tomorrow People scripts, our first separate things we'd done since we actually started writing together. And we kind of pitched to take over, because Nigel got us in to write one for his last season, which never saw the light of day, just like licensed things. We had a whole season planned out. Me and Cav were going to finish it off with a two-parter. Joe Lidster was doing one. Brilliant Tim story. And then we got the call from Jason to say, I haven't got the licence, and so that was happening. And then we kind of talked about, well, can we produce something else for you? And so when we got involved in doing the Robin Hood range of audiobooks that Big Finish did, which Cav eventually didn't go on to do. But I did those. Sharon Gosling produced, and I directed and script edited. John Ainsworth directed 2 of those. Brilliant. I mean, when your first experience of directing for Big Finish is directing Richard Armitage.
So I'm not as familiar with the ranges as I'd like to be. Are they live action?
No, they were single reader audiobooks. So 60-minute audiobooks, like an episode of the TV series. And we had Richard Armitage did 2. As Guy of Gisborne. I mean, amazing to be in the studio with an actor who does 2 60-minute audiobooks in a single day and nails it. Absolutely nails it.
A lot of prep beforehand.
And just such a talented guy, and such a nice guy as well. But that was kind of, I was a bit daunted going in, because my first experience of directing was, it's Richard Armitage, and he's just been in, had he been in Spooks or was going into Spooks?
Well, either way, you're aware of the baggage that some of these people bring.
I think he was doing both. I think he'd filmed the last series of Hood and his first series of Spooks about the same time, and he was just awesome. We had Jonas Armstrong, who was Robin, who came in, who's a lovely guy, and then the last one I directed was David Harewood, who went on to be in Homeland. I mean, he was a very well-known actor at the time. He played Friar Tuck in that last series of the TV series. And there were lovely things to do. We got scripts. Simon Gurrier did 2. Simon Gurrier did the script. Jonathan Clements did 2. My mate Mick Habberton did 1. Trevor Baxendale, did the Friar Tuck one, which was great, which David did. Great, just lovely experience to do, and I missed directing Sam Trout, and John Ainsworth stepped in to do that. Again, he did 2 in a day. Brilliant. So there's that, and then we did Highlander. Me and Cav script edited the first series of Highlander for Big Finish.
So the leaning of that was more towards Highlander, the TV series?
Yes, it was Adrian Paul as Duncan MacLeod, although in our story that me and Cav wrote, Kurgan Rising, because we're big fans of the original film. Brought the Kurgan back, and we brought Conor MacLeod back, but without Clancy Brown or Christophe Lambert. So it's great. Adrian Paul's Kurgan was fantastic. So we did that, and then we took on Iris Wildthyme. As producers, Jason said we'd really like to do another series of Iris Wildthyme, and we're like, we'll have a go at that. And Paul Mars was really supportive. I really liked working with Paul. But of course, it brought us into the orbit of Katie Manning.
Yeah.
Who is a force of nature. She's one of my favourite people in the whole world, and never met her before. We did the first day's recording, but I got a phone call 2 days before. She literally just landed from Australia.
Yeah.
I just got this phone call at work because I was working on a soap opera magazine in London at the time. And double banking Big Finish stuff. We were all just starting to take on freelance jobs on top of the day job. So that's your kind of next step on the route towards going full time, I suppose. Just got this phone call and hello darling, it's Katie Manning. Just touching base, and we've been great mates ever since. And we did 3 series and a Christmas special with Katie.
And Panda, of course.
Yeah, and it was the first Big Finish box set.
Oh.
The second series of Iris Wild Time was that first experiment, because they came out as individual releases and as a 4-disc box set.
Right.
And the box set was the one that shifted the units, and so it was kind of one of the first experiments with a box set, as far as I'm aware. And then shortly after that we did Claws of Santa, which I just adore. Again, Katie and David Benson as Panda together are incredible. They're so good together. So we had great fun doing those, and I eventually did my darts pastiche that I'd always wanted to do, which is Iris at the Oki. So we'd done that bit, got into producing, and then around the same time I started producing Graceless.
Yes.
Which is still an ongoing thing, which we did series 4 last year. Which and Orbia, and we are going to do more. I don't think that's a secret. But that was great because Simon.
There's a thread on the Not the Big Finish forum, and we're called "What Do We Want to See from Series 4?"
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't step on forums.
No. So it's a very nice place.
Yeah.
That one.
So it's all part and parcel of what of your kind of Big Finish work, really.
Yeah.
Bit of producing, bit of writing. A lot with done Blake 7, we've done countermeasures.
Yeah. New Countermeasures was a stroke of genius. Going Avengers, New Avengers, Adventures of the Saints.
But I loved it. It was great to be asked to do Series 2, Peshka. Here's that thing of I started watching a lot of 60s Avengers, the studio band Avengers episodes, which were great. I remember, and it was like this was Countermeasures Goes International.
Yeah.
And I remember writing a bit of stage direction, which was stock footage of a plane lands at Schiphol Airport. So Countermeasures, lovely. Never managed to get to a recording for Countermeasures.
No.
And then last year I was in the National Theatre down in London, and I was finishing a draft of the Doctor Who magazine comic strip, and I suddenly looked up and there was Chunky Simon Williams sitting on a table opposite reading a paper.
Yeah.
I thought, I can't not say hello, apart from the fact he's in the Archers now, and I'm a huge Archers fan, so I just had to go over and say, and he just had that look of fear momentarily. It's like, it's a mad fan. And
it's a mad fan. What type, what flavour?
I just say I had to introduce myself. I've written some of your Countermeasures scripts, and I just wanted to say hello. I'm a massive fan. And lovely. And I went away. This look of relief of wasn't. So that was good. It's that old thing of where Doctor Who can just pop over. You're there finishing a comic strip script, and you look up and there's somebody who's been in Doctor Who sitting across the room from you.
It's a terrible dilemma, because you think, right, these people, they're ordinary people. They want their own lives. Yeah. But there's a 10-year-old inside you going, you will regret this forever if you don't do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad I did that. So all through those years, that kind of period. I mean, we've been. Cav and I, on and off, together and separately, we've been working for Big Finish since 2000.
Okay. I will edit this bit out. I'm aware that I've taken up a lot of your time already. Is this all right?
Yeah, it's absolutely fine.
Stop it or anything.
No, it's absolutely fine. I mean, if I'm wibbling on too much...
No, God, no. Big interview's not a problem. The Paul Cannell one for the 500th show, that was long as well. Not a problem.
What time are we on, actually?
About midday.
That's fine. I think we've got this till 12:30, but we can go over, so...
Right.
It's fine. It's absolutely fine.
Okay. So that's Big Finish, and can you tell us anything you've got planned for the future, or is it
Big Finish wise?
Yeah.
There's a couple of things in the offing. I've got a project in the offing which is really exciting. It's one of the, I hate being one of the Twitter people. Oh, so glad I can talk about this now. There are things in the pipeline. I've got we've got Graceless.
Yeah.
Graceless 5 on the go. Simon Gurrier is plotting that at the moment, which we've got to get on the go with. But yeah, that's going to be a little bit different, but I can't say in what way. But it's going to be quite exciting. And then I've got a non-licensed, an original thing that I'm trying.
See, that was going to be one of my questions. It was, you've been playing in other people's sandpits for a while.
Yeah.
You'll want to play in your own at some point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I'm working up an original series for Big Finish at the moment. Which, yeah, I mean, that's starting something completely from scratch. So I'm going to get a few of the writers together to bash some ideas around, and then this last fortnight, I've got a very special thing on the go for. It's not Doctor Who, but one of the other Big Finish Rangers. But yeah, I again can't.
No,
I just want to become one of those. But no, I have things on the go for Big Finish, which is always great. Big Finish is such an important part of my work life. They've been there through thick and thin, really, as a kind of a haven when work's maybe a bit thin on the ground, and then suddenly something comes along, and through Big Finish I've met some of my heroes. Some of them become friends. I mean, I did. Should probably mention The Adventures of Luther Arkwright.
Yeah. Brian Talbot's greatest work. Yeah,
I mean, that was crazy. If you don't know, The Adventures of Luther Arkwright, written and drawn by Brian Talbot, who was the guiding lights of British comics in the late 70s into the 80s. It's a mad, crazy thing about this kind of dimension-hopping hero fighting. Look it up on the Big Finish website, The Adventures of Luther Arkwright. It is available.
He's definitely not Jerry Cornelius.
No, and
he's a lot more accessible as well.
Yeah, and Jason, it had been done as a part of the underground comic world, I think The Adventures of One Bad Rat, or whatever it was called, and then Dark Horse started putting out
One Bad Rat is an incredibly good read.
And then they got Big Finish got the rights to do it because Jason's a big fan of it, and I think it was at India Fisher's birthday party. Jason asked me, said, "Do you want to do the adaptation? Because Church and the Crown was great. Do you want to do it?" And I was like, "It can't be done."
No.
I thought, there's no way this can be done on audio. So I said no, I think, originally. And then he came back to me again, come on. And so I went out and bought the graphic novel collection, started going through it, and I thought, nope, still can't be done. And then it started to sink in that, it was actually it's structured kind of in 3 acts, really. And I kind of said, so I eventually started working on it, and I did say, because David Tennant was doing a lot of work for Big Finish at the time. It was just prior to him doing Doctor Who. And I said to Jason, well, I can't think of anybody better than David to play Luther. So we had David Tennant shouting Rose before Russell T Davies.
Oh yeah, exactly. If you want to hear of a time travel dimension hopping hero played by David Tennant and his companion called Rose, get this.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, and again, that's the first time I met Paul Darrow. Because Paul Darrow plays Cromwell, and Paul was going to have a great part of my future on the Blake 7 range. So again, it's another day, and I just being in studio.
How is he?
Good. Yeah,
he's good.
Yeah. He's
not been well.
No. He has done some recording recently.
Excellent.
I think there'll be an announcement soon, but again, I'm not sure I should be saying that. But no, that's why. No, Paul's good.
No. On the Big Finish podcast 2 weeks ago, it was said that there will be a Blake 7 announcement soon. Yeah. So don't worry about that.
It's all good. But no, as far as I know, Paul's really good. And so I remember being in the studio, me and David Tennant standing there, and this is David, and this is before that first series with Eccleston was being made in Cardiff, and his big news was, he said, I'm going to be in the next Harry Potter film, but I can't tell you who I'm playing. That was his big news, and he was really excited. And then we're back in the studio, and he's just going, it's Paul Darrow. He was such a fan.
Yeah.
That's what I always loved about David. He's A, the nicest man in the world. Secondly, loved that he was a fan of this stuff, and that it was both of us kind of geeking out of it. It's Paul Darrow. And Paul was great, because Paul's the kind of actor you get in as much as what he does in the green room as he does in front of the microphone, which is always brilliant. But it's kind of like, hello, Paul Darrow. Of course, when I played Hamlet in '76, that kind of, and that's what I love about a Big Finish green room. It's the stories that get fired around. So that's one of the other things I did for Big Finish Luther Arkwright. There is a script for the sequel knocking around somewhere on my hard drive. One day, you never know. that might get done.
Well, you've got one sale right here because Luther was. I mean, I met Brian Talbot years ago,
right?
And he was selling the individual artwork pages from, and I've got one.
Wow.
And it's not a very exciting page because I didn't have a lot of cash on there. I bought that in a Sandman page as well. And but owning a piece of Luther Arkwright, you just kind of, this means so much to me and very little to anyone else.
And then I got the CD-ROM of Heart of Empire to work from, because I mean it's fully adapted. There's a 2-part script in existence for it,
right?
But we've never just quite got right the way down the line to get it in studio.
It would be so well.
Yeah, we'll see. I might need to pick that up again. So, but yeah, I mean, so there's a big finish there in the background, and then
right. So there's 2 more areas that really need to be covered.
Yeah.
If this is going to be as in depth as I know some people want to be. You've got Doctor Who magazine. You've just finished. Can I just say, a rather nice little story.
I'm so chuffed to have done, because I've been involved with DWM for 6 years now, because I've been a full-time freelancer for, it will be 7 years on the 2nd of June,
right?
Because I lived in London for a decade. I went from Manchester to Bath to London, worked on All About Soap magazine for 6 years, along with
so how come you're in Halifax?
Because I come from Halifax. I am born and bred Halifax lad. So I went from Halifax through youth theatre to Salford Uni for my drama degree, and to Bath. And I'd always been I'd always been a better writer than I was an actor.
Yeah.
I suddenly realised very early on that acting wasn't going to do it.
I gave up acting in 1989.
I had an audition for Coronation Street when I was doing my A-level theatre studies, and I was awful. It was to deliver pizzas to the hair salon when Don Brennan was harassing Natalie. Was it Natalie? No, not Natalie.
No, it was. I know that. Yes.
Yeah, Denise Black's character.
I remember the story.
And she had to deliver a box of 10 pizzas, and someone said, "So can you do it in a Mancunian accent?" I didn't know what a Mancunian accent was. Do you want these pizzas or not? It came out as like, it was from Oswald Twistle or somewhere. And I just thought there and then. Suffice to say, I didn't get to the part. So I abandoned that, and then ended up in London. I'd been kind of out of Doctor Who fandom for a few years, and then when I moved to London, you kind of had a ready-made group there.
Yeah.
There was the Fitzroy Tavern, first Thursday of every month. So you knew people, and so you had a ready-made social group. And those are still my great mates today.
Yeah.
So then, and then what DVD kind of got canned. So I got made freelance by Future Publishing. When I wasn't very good at it, wasn't very good at the freelancing at all. I eventually found my way into sub-editing. Kept popping back to Bath, doing bits of sub-editing for various magazines up there, and then ended up a couple of years freelance, and then I got taken on full-time at All About Soap, where there were various Who people knocking around really from who'd come up through and taught themselves the whole writing thing. And I kind of went there. My mate Richard Atkinson, who's art editor on Doctor Who magazine, he was art editor on All About Soap for a while, and my buddy Ian Farrington, who came from Big Finish to All About Soap when I needed a new deputy. So Ian's there, and Ian, the mag finished last year, but Ian took over from me when I left, and so I came back to Halifax because I got together with my wife, who's from here, and it was easier for me to move back here. Yeah. So I was in to be close to family. So that was 2010 when I moved back. Yeah. So and then. Where you go through fallow periods and where you panic a bit about, oh God, how are we going to pay the rent? And then Doctor Who magazine came and saved my bacon, really. Yeah. There were bits of stuff for Big Finish, bits and pieces here and there, and then got an email from Tom Spilsbury saying, do you fancy a week in Tunbridge Wells doing some? I think the Sarah Jane special edition was needed. So I kind of went in for a week, and I kind of never left, really.
Came for a week, stranded 50.
Yeah, and I'd go, and they were always there. I mean, Tom, Peter, they've all been brilliant in saying, just come in. And I generally do. I generally did 1 week in the office out.
So you're one half of the part work.
Yes, I mean, which is that comes a little bit further down the line, because I'd kind of go into DWM as a subber, proofer, writer, whatever was needed really. I'd go in and I'd stay with my mate Daniel in Bermondsey and then get the train up to Tunbridge Wells, and it worked out really well. And if I needed to do a fortnight, I did a fortnight. Some periods where I was down there for 2 weeks. You don't want to be away from home that long, but sometimes you have to go to where the work is. And yeah, so I'll be forever grateful to Tom, Peter and Panini for giving me a berth, a home when I really needed it. And they're still very, very good to me. So I knocked around there, and then I'm coming up for 2 years now. They were starting the complete history part work, because I think there's been a call for doing, Andrew Pixley's archive features as collected, as a collected work, and I went through various different kind of formats, I think, in the planning stages, and then they kind of came up with the part work. And I was really jealous because John's a really important figure in my professional life. Has been there throughout on various projects. And John, they did the test launch, did 4 issues, did well enough to get taken onto a full part work. It's a fortnightly part work, of a hardback book, between 140 and 160 pages every fortnight. And John kind of phoned me after the first 10 issues or so and said, I'm going to go stark staring mad to keeping this schedule up by myself. Because it's literally a team of, I suppose it's 3, because you have an editor. We have fantastic, lovely Emily Cook, who is our editorial assistant, who divides her time between Complete History and Doctor Who magazine. Emily, just most talented, breath of fresh air. She came for a week doing work experience a couple of years ago, and she absolutely charmed us. And so when DWM needed somebody and when the part work needed somebody, she was an obvious fit, because she just left university. And she's phenomenal. We couldn't do without Emily, and she's such a big Doctor Who fan as well. So, and she just adores the job, and she's blinding. So you've got. And then John said, look, do you want to come on as co-editor, and we'll just alternate the books? Right. So I do the odd numbered issues, John does the even numbered issues. So you'll get runs of the part where you might get 3 editorials from me and then 2 from John, and then it doesn't go John Mark, because you spread the volumes across the run, across the Doctors. Because somebody said, why can't you just release these chronologically? I think if you had the first 10, 15 issues as just the black and white stuff.
You'd find
not to denigrate it, but you've got to spread it out, because people have favourite Doctors, and there are fans of the newer stuff.
I'm just going to buy the Pertwees or whatever.
So it's building up nicely. And John said, look, do you want to come on board? And that's nearly 2 years ago. I came on board with issue 13, the first Sylvester McCoy issue. And it's great. It's a lot to do. Paul Weiss, who's our designer. Richard did the original design, and it's great. It's ongoing. That's still got another year and a half from where we are now before we get to the end of it, I think. Finding out so much about Doctor Who, and so there's the part work. Great to be.
I would ask if you ever reached saturation point, but I know from experience that just doesn't happen.
There is a saturation point. I mean, when you're kind of going through and your day is, you spend the morning editing text to send to Andrew Pixley, and then you're looking at proofs, and then in the afternoon you're writing the DWM comic strip. It's quite a lot of Doctor Who. You kind of flitting from one to the other, and then you're fitting in interviews for the Essential Doctor Who or the special editions, because I write extensively for those as well. That becomes quite full on. There was a period last year when I was in the thick of the comic strip where I just thought, this is just too much. So there's the part work, and then I was in Scott Gray, such a brilliant editor and such a brilliant writer, who Scott looks after some of the Marvel collected editions at Panini, but he's edited and written the Doctor Who comic strip on and off over the years, and Scott's run constantly on it for years now, and he wrote Eye of Torment, the first Peter Capaldi comic strip in DWM, and then decided he just wanted to step back from the writing. And he told me he was stepping down. was like, okay. I was like, well, I'm really sad about that because he's the most phenomenal Doctor Who writer. And I thought, well, maybe I could have a go myself. But I didn't mention this. I thought I'll leave it a couple of days, not to pounce on the writer who's just told me he's stepping down before I sent that writer who's now the editor an email saying, yeah, can I pitch? Because I just thought, maybe it's why I don't get more work. But then 2 days later, Scott, we were walking to lunch, I was in the office, and he said, so do you fancy having a crack?
You didn't just reach into your bag and go, well...
Well, no, I just got, I was so chuffed and so honoured and flattered, and, it's the DWM comic strip. It's the longest ongoing kind of run of Doctor Who fiction, I think, out of all of Doctor Who, really.
It didn't stop.
No, I think there's been a couple of issues in the mag where there hasn't been a strip, but generally...
that's mainly because you've had so much content that you've had to...
But generally from 79 to 2017, it's been constantly running. And to be part of that, you feel like you're standing on the shoulders of giants, really. Yeah. So I got the email, I kind of said, I'd love to put a pitch into you, and again, it's always timing, you're getting so busy. Because was I already on the part where... No, I wasn't. No, I must have... When I did my first one, that's January, 3 years ago, it will be now, 2 years ago, where I just got an email out of the blue. There was a problem with the strip coming up. Yeah. That it needed changes to get it kind of approved, because I think it's strayed just too near to what they were planning. I think it was an underwater-based type story.
Must be a nightmare.
Yeah, which is why Cardiff are so on this, and so to put a bit of air in the schedule... Yeah. I got an email from Scott, and John was co-editing at the time as well, and they said we need a one-parter really quickly, and that was Space Invaders. They kind of had the whole thing about the storage space that we have now, these 24-hour storage spaces you get, and extrapolate that onto a universal level, and that everyone's putting their stuff in orbital storage facilities. The original idea that I'd had was that you have these storage facilities on one half of a moon, on the other half was a giant IKEA. So people were just buying stuff to put in their houses, and they had the storage space to put in. But I was in one of these places. I was moving house, and we were putting stuff. And I was in one of these places at 1 a.m. on my own. These kind of maze of the corrugated shutters. And I just think, oh my god, anything could be in there. Yeah. So that was
every single one of those boxes.
Yeah, and that was the spark of the story. And then from there, I pitched that idea, which they liked. Yeah. And then Scott came back and said, what about have you seen Storage Hunters? Yeah. So it could be, bring that into it, that satirical thing, and that came up. That was great. I thought, I've done the DWM comic strip now, and Mike Collins drew it, brilliant artwork. David Roach inks, James Afraidy on the colours, and you get Roger Langridge doing your lettering. It doesn't get better than that. And so I thought, I've done it. I've done that now. I probably won't do another one. And I got the email again. Do you want to do a 2-parter this time? And we want it set in Highgate Cemetery, right? Yeah. Which became the Highgate Horror, which is kind of another turning point. Because David Roach was going to draw it, and brilliant location. I did a location recce to Highgate Cemetery. Went with Ian Farrington. We spent an afternoon.
Did you do one of the tours?
Did one of the tours of the closed off bit. Oh, just amazing. He's thinking, why has Doctor Who never done one here before? I went through a couple of versions of that in the pitch. The original pitch was dreadful. About a tour guide.
You've not been banging on the door of the TV with some of the ideas?
No. That's all sewn up, really.
TV comes to you?
I have no TV experience so at this stage, which I hope will change at some point. But so I came up with the Highgate Horror, which I absolutely adored doing. It just seemed to really work. And we had the character of Jess Collins, who Scott said, let's make her black. Let's make her a black girl. Mm-hmm. We just don't want another kind of middle class white girl. Yeah. Let's make Jess black. It kind of stuck. It kind of took. Because I was writing it. There's a line. Jess just goes, "Here, Dr. Al help," and it just goes, "I'm not a child." And she goes, "All right, stay here and die then." Scott saying, "How do you?" We need a fill-in companion between Clara and whoever comes in on TV, because there's going to be a year without a TV show. Yeah. What do you reckon to Jess being the companion? I was like, oh my god, yeah. I think the original idea was I'd write the first story, and then there'd be a period of other adventures, and then I'd eventually write her out. And then we realised there wasn't going to be that long between, and Scott said, it seems odd to have a 3-part opener and then they go off into space and then very quickly they're back to Earth and he's dropping her off. So it was, again, Scott's brilliant idea, let's strand the Doctor on Earth in the 1970s.
Yeah.
And from there we came up with the dating worked for the Pestilent Heart, the first story that we did, where the Doctor comes back to Earth with the Victoria Line extension to Brixton.
Yeah.
Which was mid-72, I think. No, mid-71.
It's Doctor Who 70s feeling. It's
something like that. The timings worked out, and I was thinking,
it's going to be a bit squishy.
Yeah, so, things happening in the underground, plague pits, blah, 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 and the Doctor meeting Jess again, and he sacrifices the TARDIS by the end, so he's stranded on Earth again and having to live in this house with this amazing family.
And stay out of the way of himself.
Yeah, I mean, I had one idea of... there was a line where I said that he kind of said to the police, phone this number, tell them John Smith's in the building and not to worry, I've got it covered, just to kind of... Yeah. Something like that. But I said, no, we don't mention unit, we don't. And at one point I was going to have him nicking Bessie for an afternoon. That you'd see...
Oh, it's tempting.
The doctor needs a car, he needs to get somewhere quickly.
Or you've got a Pertwee story happening here, and your story's here, and...
Yeah, and it was just going to be this thing of that he'd turn and look, and you'd see this kind of corner of a cape disappearing into a door, and he sees a sprightly yellow roadster on the street, and goes, and he knows he can nick it. Yeah, so just 11 issues of the DWM comic. I mean, such a privilege to do, such a privilege to be asked to do. And when you realise you're doing a little extended run on it as well, you're just like, God, that doesn't. I interviewed Pat Mills last week for a thing, and I was suddenly kind of thinking that linked back to issue 1 of Doctor Who Weekly, and that feeling of standing on the shoulders of giants. Yeah, really, and working with Scott as well, who's such a blindingly talented editor, brilliantly talented and encouraging and patient, and pushing you when you needed it.
Those early strips in Doctor Who magazine were just incredible. They were what grabbed you in.
Yeah, and there's such a great tradition running through the comic strips into DWM. Just to be... Yeah, Dave Gibbons working on it as well. He's one of my comic heroes. And brilliant that they got Dave back for issue 500 to do those 2 pages. But yeah, such a brilliant privilege. And then getting to do what we did in the final 4 issues...
Yeah, which I'm not going to give spoilers for.
Well, I mean, it's out there now. It's out there now. We're not going to kind of spoil what happens in the end, but I think it's known that we did. I said to Scott, I think, it's early 1970s. It's a Capaldi strip who's steeped in the Pertwee era. And you kind of think, what would he like to read? And I say, why don't we do the original? Why don't we do the Delgado Master? Yeah. And he said, well, that's a ridiculous idea. 24 hours later, walk into lunch. So I've kind of been thinking on the drive in this morning, I think it'd be really great if we did the Delgado Master. And yeah, I still can't believe we kind of pulled it off, really.
You gave him the regeneration. That's the bit that having him in it is kind of, that's really nice. It's lovely. We've got the Delgado Master. Yeah. You're just reading it, you're going, this is brilliant. But then it's going, right, we're going to give him the regeneration, take him into the next story. It's going to work. That was Scott's idea as well. He said, I think we should do the Delgado Master, and I think we should regenerate him. It just kind of just was like, and I wasn't sure at first, and then the more you think about it, of course we should regenerate it. It's not been done before, and it's not been done before. You can't do it on TV. You can't do it in the audios. No, you could fudge it, I suppose. It was done in War of the Daleks, I think it is. Yeah, let's not talk about those. No, which I mean, they're fine when they exist and they're there, and they are a valid point of a fictional canon. But I think that's the great thing about Doctor Who. But the can exist. Tradition of ignoring stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, they can exist in their own continuity. It's a really good example. They can exist in their own continuity, and that final page is like, oh my god, he's regenerating. Yeah, it was lovely. That's kind of that's a little bit insane, and I really like the last couple of pages. God, that cliffhanger though as well. The part 2 cliffhanger. Which one was that? It's the Doctor and Hayes getting back to Brixton, and they find Mr. Gale
shrunk on the chessboard.
Yeah.
It's just something about writing the Doctor and the Master together and giving them that banter. But I think I like that we held off them meeting until part 3.
Yeah.
Again, that was a Scott no. He said, let's hold it back, that the audience knows something
audience knows what's coming,
that the Doctor
and we'll
doesn't.
just...
Yeah. I was good to kill off Inspector Hayes. I really liked him.
Yeah. It's awful having to kill off.
I had to. I mean, but it earns its keep in the story. But Andrew Pixley would phone me every month just to give me that kind of this is brilliant, and it's really nice because Andrew's so positive and so encouraging. So you get that from Andrew, and he said, I absolutely love Inspector Hayes. He's brilliant. I love him. He's such a that Sweeney tradition. Oh, he's such a great character. Thinking, you're not going to like what's coming then, Andrew. No. And he phoned me after part 3, and he just phoned and he just started giggling down the phone. I went, Andrew, I'm so sorry, because at one point it was going to be Timsy the cat that got
kill the police.
And I wish we'd done as well. I'll finish the comic strip stuff on this. That again, it was one of Scott's ideas, and I wish we could have done it because Timsy kind of disappears after part 1.
Right.
He doesn't even appear in that final couple of panels. I'm not sure why. I probably didn't write it, but because the TARDIS has been giving out all this Artron radiation that the family have soaked up. Scott said that the ace in the hole the Doctor pulls out is Timsy right at the end. He just pulls him from out of his coat because he's been sleeping on top of the TARDIS while it's been regenerating. So who's going to have absorbed the most? So you've just got this kind of feline Artron missile.
Cats will always find the warmest place.
And I kind of regret that we didn't find a way. I don't think it would have fit in the tone. There was so much going on.
Well, you've heard it here. It's canon now.
Yeah, there's so much going on in that final part.
There's an immortal cat wandering around.
But I mean, you can get the collected edition of Doorway Tales coming out as a collected edition of all 11 parts in October, November, I think. Yeah, so thrilled to have done it. And there's the missing Tibbsy story. One day I'll write Tibbsy's story where it's just all about everything from Tibbsy's POV. So that was that. I mean, such a privilege. I'm so happy to have done it. And so
So we've covered everything except one format, which is books.
Yes.
Now, for anyone listening, you already know that I'm the author of Who-ology. So if you miss out the strip, you've got Who-ology.
Yeah.
Which came out bizarrely about the same time.
Did it? Yes, it would have done, wouldn't it? Yeah. Again, that's why I think that's kind of a high point for me and Cav, really. Yeah. Because it's we're not really writing together at the moment. We've both hit a point where we are with what we're doing career-wise.
Well, his novel is just out.
Yeah. I mean, Cav, he's flying as Cav at the moment, but we've both become so busy on individual stuff that it's so difficult to fit in. We kind of start moving in different directions, but because we've had people asking, has there been some fallout? Has there been some? And there really hasn't. We are still the best of mates.
You're not off to write the solo album then?
No, we speak. I think we have used the analogy that the band still exists, but we're pursuing solo projects for the foreseeable future. We speak every day. I'm godfather to his eldest daughter. He was best man at my wedding.
Yeah.
So no, there's been no fallout at all. But no, a few people have asked. Eternal Battle, our Big Finish Tom Baker story, that marks our final release joint project. We have a joint project coming up over the summer.
Yeah.
Which will be good to do. And then, there'll maybe stuff further down the line after that. But no. But, we still kind of G each other up and jolly each other along and bash ideas around. So, but yeah, Who-ology was such a delight to do. And such a success as well.
And that quotations book as well.
Which was the following year, yeah.
Such hardship having to watch every episode of Doctor Who again.
I mean, it's really nice when, your editor takes you out and says, right, for your next book I'd like you to do this. I think Albert gave us a copy of the Discworld quotable book, and he goes, there you go, The Wit and Wisdom. It was originally The Wit and Wisdom of the Doctor.
Yeah.
And then me and Kath suggested, it should be The Wit and Wisdom of Doctor Who, because it's...
Everyone else has got some great lines as well.
But no, Who-ology was such fun to do, and I mean, there's nothing like seeing the cover of your book popping up on a TV screen after an episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I mean, that was crazy. The book went from, I can't remember what it was on the Amazon chart at the time, but it went into the top 10 overnight because of that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane.
But remember, there's no advertising on the BBC.
No. They are allowed to advertise their own You know, you actually you apply for these slots. I think that's how it. Well, I think we nearly got the Robin Hood CDs on there. But yeah, I mean that was amazing. You know, and I've got so many texts after that going, "Was that your book on TV?" And yeah, it went from I think it might have been in the top 100 or certainly the top 200, but it went to number.
No, I think it was because obviously with it having a title similar to mine and being out at the same time, I was keeping an eye on it. So it did do remarkably well.
Crazy, really.
Yeah.
And I guess kind of thing that, you know, I'd have wanted to get on Christmas morning.
Yeah.
We've signed so many copies of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
You'd always get someone coming along to an event with a copy to sign. So yeah, Who-ology and Wit and Wisdom, and yeah, I've done a couple of other things for some upcoming BBC books, which I don't think's been announced yet. But yeah, there's all sorts of things going on in the Doctor Who world. I'm so grateful to Doctor Who for being such a thing, and you know, I do the figurine collection as well. I write the special issues of that, which are good. I've just done one of those.
My War Doctor figurine got broken in the move.
Oh no!
Can't be helped.
Oh no! Because I've got my because I do the special issues, which are the oversized figures. Yeah. So I think the first one I did was the TARDIS, and then Slitheen. The Slitheen figures are great, and then for the Face of Bo is a lovely one. I've got so much material from Russell on that one. The face of Bo as a metaphor for the struggles of that first year of Doctor Who, to say that nothing was impossible. Because Bo nearly didn't happen.
Yeah.
2 weeks before filming, they didn't have Bo because the Mill thought Millennium were doing it, and Millennium thought the Mill were doing it.
Well, I know for a fact it's a practical effect because I've seen the real thing.
Yeah.
So Millennium just pulled all-nighters, was it? I
guess so, yeah. To pull this thing out, and then it got more and more, and then it just kind of inserted itself into the thing. Russell said, he said I've been walking past that prop in the prop store every day for a year, and when we got the commission for the next 2 series, I needed things quickly.
Yeah.
So kind of Bo's part of that whole prophecy thing was all, what did he say? Part improvised, part planned, like the best parties.
Oh, it's the business with the sky opening.
So I mean, there are days where I'm just doing constant Doctor Who stuff, and between you trying to fit your own stuff in, to move into your own.
Yes.
You know, I've got plans in that area. I've got an agent and did a short film a couple of years ago.
So when there's more concreteness, give me a shout. We'll definitely cover it.
Yeah, lovely. But yeah, brilliant. I mean, I'm sorry it's taken us so long to hook up, considering we live so close.
It's not a problem.
So, but yeah, I think that I can't think of anything else to add, really.
Right, well, before the battery signal runs out on this recorder, because I've just noticed now, I'd like to thank you very, very much for your time.
Oh, thank you for listening to me wibbling on.
So until next time, be seeing you. That was the Doctor Who Tin Dog Podcast, available on iTunes, YouTube, Twitter, RSS, Vimeo, and across the internet. Doctor Who and its associated properties are all copyright and trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Why not become a supporter by visiting patreon.com/tindog. Contact the show on tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.